Hey, there you are. Oh, yes. This is a souvenir from my very first trip to London. I got this in some antique store in, I don't know, near Bibba Boutique. Anyway, I'm Gary Lucas, and so nice to be with you. It's really broiling here in New York. It's 90 degrees out. Caroline just came back with some nice, cool iced coffee, which I might take a sip or two in the breaks. As it works out, there are no breaks here. And anyway, I'm so glad she did. I'd show you the outside right now, but it's grim and the sun is beating down. So I'm just going to try and play here. Sans glasses. I might have to refer to the old sunglasses here. All right, well, let's get down to it. Yeah, the music goes round and round. One of my favorite songs. There's so many great versions on the net, but it was recorded by Mae Questel, who was the primary voice of Betty Boop. And we did that on this record, Fleischerei, which I talked about last time. And I didn't mention the other guys on the project, and I felt bad about that. Jeff Lederer should get special commendation for his beautiful saxophone and reeds instruments throughout that record. Joe Fiedler. Let's see, who else was on it? Oh dear, I'm going to have to refer to the credits again, but... and Sarah Stiles was singing, and it was a tribute to the music of Max Fleischer, who's near and dear to my heart. And that one goes out to Ginny Mahoney, his granddaughter, who came to a show we did at the American Film Institute in Silver Spring, Maryland, where we showed a whole slew of Max Fleischer cartoons, including some very choice pre-code Popeye cartoons, and Betty Boop, of course. And also, my favorite is really without Betty Boop and without Popeye, and that is Swing You Sinners. And I posted it on the timeline last night, so if you scroll down here on Facebook, check this thing out, because it's pretty darn psychedelic. And this goes back to about 1931, made right here in New York. News is not too good in New York, I'm sorry to say, and I get alerts all the time. I think our status as a frontline state was just downgraded as far as handling the virus, because even though we flattened the curve here in New York City, there has been a steady, slow increase in the number of reported cases, which is frightening. And yet, as Caroline just confirmed, there are so many people walking around the West Village without masks, and this is madness to me. It seems such a measly, puny sacrifice, really, for the common good, to don these things. And I'm waiting for my Trout Mask replica mask, which should be arriving any day. And I also want to thank Steve Froy at beefheart.com, who reposted this page that my webmaster Tanya Weeman set up, which contains my 3 pandemic Captain Beefheart tributes of a couple of weeks ago. And also you get a tour of some of my archive, scans of some of the paintings and drawings Don gave me as gifts. And also, if you click on them, you'll get the backstory behind each one and the context for each piece. And then there were also Arthur Levy, my old editor at Zoo World magazine, put me up to write an appreciation of my 5 favorite Beefheart albums, so they're there too. And I'm here. All right, so now let's see. I'm going to switch to the electric guitar for this next number. And yeah, the sun is really intense today streaming in here. So don't mind me, but I'm going to put on these shades here. Okay, my Wayfarers. also want to give a shout out to 3 people who meant so much in the last couple of days. Richie Robinson, a return to the fold. Richie was missing in action for a few weeks, maybe a month, and he's back now. Zach Silver, you got the silver, buddy. And thank you so much for the share. And Calvin Aberley, I want to thank my old pal Calvin, who in lieu of a monetary dispensation via PayPal, dropped off a whole bunch of choice vinyl albums yesterday over here, which I was loath to open because I didn't know what was in that package. And you know, with the virus and everything, one has to be careful. Maybe it was a stink bomb, I don't know. But Calvin and I go way back, and Calvin drove Gods and Monsters all over, up to Canada, down the coast, out to the Midwest. We got as far as Chicago and Detroit, and then Cleveland. This is going back some years, and I'm glad that he's still active. We had a near miss. I mean, I'll just tell you this story. Never fall asleep if you're the band leader in a moving vehicle containing other members of the band. The story is, well, we had done, 6 or 7 dates up and down the East Coast, and then we had this gig in Cleveland, lovely Cleveland, city of light, city of magic, as Randy Newman says, and it was a Sunday night, which is never the most salubrious night to play. And we were playing at Peabody's Down Under in the Flats. And if you know Cleveland, you'll know that's a preeminent rock club in an area that, I hope they're social distancing. Maybe they're closed, I don't know. It being Ohio, though, they might not be. But watch out if you're down there. So anyway, the word had not gotten to the media that we were coming, and there had been no reviews of our record and nothing. So we arrived, and there, was my name in lights, Gary Lucas and Gods and Monsters as headliners, and we played to about 8 people on this Sunday night. So in lieu of spending some of the wretched advance money that we got for this gig, we decided to deadhead it back to New York City, and forego a motel. So after the gig, we piled into this SUV, I think it was, and Calvin was driving. And I don't know, we were kind of silly and not paying attention, any of us. We were about an hour and a half out before we realized Calvin was heading in the wrong direction, and he was going up towards Canada instead of New York City. So we got him on the right track. And I don't know, sometime about 5 a.m., I just sort of dozed off. The other guys were asleep in the back, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat next to Calvin, and I kind of just lose it and slump over. And suddenly, I don't know, a sixth sense awoke me. I was woke, and we're about, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards away from colliding with a huge big truck at an intersection off the highway. Calvin was slumped at the wheel, and I said, "Calvin!" And he woke up. And such a catastrophe was very narrowly avoided. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not sleeping again on the gig. Let's go get some coffee. And that's what you got to do, folks. I have a lot of tour stories, and I'm sure you touring musicians out there do too. And I won't drive. I gave it up a while ago. I mean, I was driving Caroline to a gig in Vermont about 7 or 8 years ago, and we were all, happy about it because we got a beautiful B&B where they were putting us up for 2 nights, and we're playing, I think, at the Flynn Arts Center up in Vermont, someplace. And we got on the the Merritt Parkway, or one of those parkways going north into New England. And we came very close up to the Sleepy Hollow exit, which was a foreboding sign right there, if you know the legend of Sleepy Hollow and Ichabod Crane and Brom Bones and Katrina and all that. Anyway, the guy who was, I mean, everybody was going at about 70 miles an hour, as people do in America. You know, I mean, the speed limit is a listed 55 the last time I looked, but that was a while ago. But everybody was cruising along at about 70, with maybe one car length in front and behind. And suddenly the guy in front of me slammed on his brakes, and I saw the lights come on. And I naturally slammed on my brakes to avoid a collision, you know, from rear-ending him. And lo and behold, we went into a skid because I was on what is known as black ice, which is when the temperature really drops below freezing on this kind of asphalt. Even if there's no visible ice there, ice crystals can form and make a very, very slick surface, and this is known as black ice. And so I was skidding, and I'm like, damn, I'm going to hit this guy. I'm going to rear end him. So I went to swerve the wheel, and the car did not respond, right? I was in a Ford, a rented car, one of those fast ones. Geez, I don't remember the model, but, you know, it had a good pickup on it. So I went the other direction, and it fishtailed, right? It responded late. And we did 360 spinouts. And Carolyn and I looked at each other. We were both strapped in, but we were like, okay, well, sayonara, because suddenly the traffic behind us was coming at us, and then we spun around again, and 3 times. And finally I was able to brake over to the soft shoulder, somehow or other, and bring it to a stop in a shuddering motion. And I was really shaken up, as was Caroline. And I vowed I would not drive again after this trip. And by God, I haven't. I said, look, we're going to drive the rest of the way at about 35 miles an hour till we get to Vermont. And then we're going to drive home at that speed. And that's it. Because I don't trust my reflexes. And to tell you the truth, I'd come in from playing in Holland the night before. So I was a little jet lagged and fried. So that might have something to do with it. But anyway, I don't like to drive. And that's one reason why LA was never really in the cards for me. So I'm going to move over to steel guitar here. Yes, that's a little bit jammed together an instrumental entitled Tompkins Square Dance, which I wrote after the Tompkins Square Park kerfuffle, which occurred, I think this is going back to about, let's say, 1990. There was a police riot that was captured inadvertently on videotape by my friend Clayton Patterson, who's a great guy, who's one of the last rebels standing in New York City. I can count him on one hand, actually, just about. And Clayton has a whole book out, a graphic novel about his life and times and other things, which you should check out. Just check him out on Amazon. He's got also a history of the Lower East Side in several volumes, for which I contributed a lengthy chapter about my experience playing in the early days of places like the Knitting Factory on Houston Street and the late lamented gas station and Tonic, etc., etc. So if you're interested in a little bit of avant-garde music history, there you go. Check out Clayton's books. They were labors of love for the guy. I think he self-published, actually. Paraphrase of the great John Fahey's Dance of Death, which is on a great album, Dance of Death, and other plantation favorites. Very big with the BLM movement right now. And, okay, we got a couple more minutes. And let's switch on back to the J45 here. And it was such a great night of music documentaries and rock films on TCM the other night. We love this channel. To see A Hard Day's Night in the present day context was so refreshing and beautiful. And then great Bob Dylan and the Don't Look Back documentary of D.A. Pennebaker. I don't know why Ben Mankiewicz insisted on pronouncing his last name Pennebaker. Maybe he knows something we don't. But I had several friends who worked up in Pennebaker's office going back to when I moved to New York in '77. Definitely Pennebaker. Yeah, okay, well, thanks so much for showing up today, and I know I enjoyed playing for you. I always do. And if you care to, please visit me on PayPal. Very important. And write a nice message, and I will relay the good news next time. And there definitely will be a next time. I'll see you on Saturday. God, it's Thursday. The days run away like wild horses over the hills, don't they say? And okay, let's see what's going on out there in the 90 degrees. Okay, it looks like they're putting in a new deck on this building right there with the hard hat, with the yellow hard hat. And the other guys over there on the oligarch's crib have taken their break. They get going at 7 a.m. though. The first hammer falls every night. But what a week. Here we got the air conditioning going. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, Caroline, thanks you. Hey, Caroline, say hi.
Hello.
There she is. Okay, and there's Lulu. Lulu. She scooted under a chair. Okay, bye.